In this video, we're going to continue covering section 3.2, and we're going to continue with our interpreting the meaning of slope and y-intercept. So the next thing you see here is we're going to translate an application into a linear function. Again, whenever we're talking about linear functions or linear equations, we're really thinking of this y equals mx plus b, right? The slope-intercept form. Or you could write f of x equals mx plus b, right? Both have the same meaning. So let's take a look at example 2. It says a major city offers a Metro Pass for $50. Each time you take a trip, $3 will come off of the card, right? So imagine you live in New York City, you buy a subway card, it has $50 on it. Every time you ride the train or the bus, $3 comes off of the $50. Okay, so let's pretend we never saw these answers here, and we'll answer questions A, B, and C. Okay, so let's see. It says find the slope and interpret the meaning. Okay, so the slope is always going to be the rate of change. So the rate of change of the value of the card will be minus $3, right? So I'm going to write M, or slope, is the negative $3. Why is it negative? Because $3 comes off of the card every trip. If we were going to put $3 onto the card, it would be a positive 3. But since we're going to debit the account by $3, the slope is minus 3, right? The rate of change is $3 per trip. The B, or the y-intercept, right? So I'm going to write y-intercept, which is our B, is going to be the initial value of the card, right? That's the $50. So for part C, and by the way, I just want to again mention, right, vertical axis intercept is the same thing as y-intercept. So then the last part, it says write an equation describing the output as a function of the input. So I'm going to say x equals number of trips, and y equals value on card. Right? So remember, the value on the card was initially $50. So the value of the card is going to be the $50 minus 3x, right? My B, right? So when I'm thinking y equals mx plus b, right? The b was your $50, the m was your minus 3, right? So this is my equation. Now, if you wrote y equals 50 minus 3x, this is also correct, right? The order does not matter, right? Some people like to think of this as I start with 50. Every time I ride the train or bus, I lose $3, or $3 comes off the card, all right? And x is the number of trips. So either one of these will work, okay? Let's try another one. On the next page, there's some practice problems. Let's just do one of the problems. We'll do number 3, okay? So let me erase this. There we go. Just so it gives us some room to work here. Okay, so it says Carmine earns a weekly salary of $300 plus 8% of sales. So it looks like his base salary is $800, and then the commission he receives is 8% of whatever he sold. So let's start here. I guess I could say y equals maybe total pay. And the x will equal the amount of sales, the dollar amount of sales, right? So the more he sells, the greater his total pay. So y would be equal, right? His total pay is going to be equal to the $300. No matter how much he sells, he gets $300. Plus he gets 8%, but remember, you have to write that as a decimal, of his sales, and x would be his sales. Okay, so you could write it this way, or you could write it as y equals 0.08 times x plus 300. Right? Either of these would be acceptable. And let's go back to make sure we answer the question, right? I guess I didn't write the slope. is the 0.08, right? And the y-intercept, or b, right, the y-int, is his initial pay, is the 300. Okay, so now we've answered everything, right? We identified the slope, we identified the y-intercept, we defined our variables. The interpretation of the meaning is his initial pay is 300, and the rate of change of his pay is impacted by 0.08 or 8% of his sales. Okay. Below this problem is a nice word box, right? So it says to solve a word problem using linear functions, look for two relationships within the problem, introduce two variables, one for each unknown quantity. To form the linear function, decide what information is given. And really, this is the key. Find the slope and find the y-intercept. Okay. Let's jump to page 156. So here, instead of being given an equation, we're given a graph, right? So, let's close this. There we go. Oops. Having technical difficulties. Right, so we're given a graph and we're asked to identify the vertical axis intercept, the horizontal axis intercept, and we want the practical meaning of these things. So let's start. So remember, the vertical intercept is where we cross the y-axis. So that looks like this point here, right? And as an ordered pair, that point looks like it's, let's see here. Looks like it's 0, 20. Whoops. So the ordered pair would be 0, 20. And I'll write that over here. 0, 20, right? Because that's where we cross the y-axis. And the practical meaning, so it looks like we're showing the distance from a person's home as a function of time. So I guess the initial distance from home is 20, I'm trying to see, are we in feet or miles? Oh, miles, okay, right, because it says miles. So for part A, I would write the initial distance from home is 20 miles. Let's see if I can type that up neatly. Okay, so I typed that up down here, right? The initial distance from home was 20 miles. Or you could say at time 0, right? Because since in the order pair is 0, 20, at time 0, the distance from home was 20 miles. Now let's look at part B. Identify the horizontal axis, right? So that's where we cross the x-axis, right? And the ordered pair here is 30, 0. So I'll write that over here, 30, 0. And the interpretation would be after 30 minutes, the distance from home is 0 miles, right? Or the person's home after 30 minutes. So I just wrote, after 30 minutes, the person is home. Or you could say, after 30 minutes, the distance from home is 0. Okay, that's my interpretation. Part C, determine a linear equation to model the situation. So really, what they're looking for is the equation of the line, right? They're looking for y equals mx plus b, right? So m is the slope, and b is your y-intercept. So we know b. B is going to be equal to 20. And to get the slope, m, well, we know that it's equal to rise over run. So in this case, the rise is down 20 units. So my rise is minus 20. And my run is 30 units. So it's negative 20 over 30, or minus 2/3 is my slope. Okay. Which really means for every 2 minutes, the person is 3 miles closer to home. I actually read that backwards. for every 3 minutes, the person is 2 miles closer to home, right? So as a person's traveling, every 3 minutes that go by, the person will be 2 miles closer to home, okay? So now that we have an M and a B, we can write our equation, right? I know what M is. I know what B is. I know that Y equals mx plus b. So I can write y equals negative 2/3 x plus 20. Right? So that's my equation for part C. And then let's answer part D, right? Part D says, how far is the person after 3 minutes? That means I have to substitute 3 in for x. Okay, so let's do that. So you can see I substitute the 3 in for x. And what's nice about that, a 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top will cancel. So I'm left with y equals minus 2 plus 20, which equals 18. So the ordered pair would be 3 comma 18. After 3 minutes, the person is 18 miles from home. Okay? I think that's pretty much it in this section. I'd like you to make sure you do the summary. The answers are on the back of the book. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them on a Zoom session. Thank you for watching.